the most important thing, not in football, for me, in life and in football. Let's go together, boys. Come on.
And Jose Mourinho says, what were you saying before the game? Because my team have come in to the Allianz Stadium and come from a goal down.
Drink more, Black and Decker.
3 for me and 2 for them. Respect, 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 man, respect.
The best coach ever born in Portuguese soil has managed to show us another side of football. His existence tells us that football is more than just a bunch of people fighting over a ball. Mourinho shows that football has a drama like a telenovela. He is a coach who is good at playing with the emotions of his audience. Sometimes we are amazed, but we can also be angered, annoyed, and disappointed by the words that come out of his mouth. Drama, conflict, and Jose Mourinho are like a golden triangle that is never separated from each other. In every club he coaches, there must be problems that are still fun to talk about until now. One of the most famous is certainly when he coached one of the best teams in the world, Real Madrid. There, Mourinho experienced tiring seasons. Some people think that Jose Mourinho was just lucky to bring FC Porto to lift the Big Ear Trophy at the Veltins Arena, Germany in 2004. However, with Inter Milan, Mourinho proved that winning competitions is one of his skills as a coach. When Mourinho left Chelsea as a relatively young manager, he had a lot to prove. After being sacked, despite being able to deliver some domestic success in London, offers were pouring into the desk of Jorge Mendes as his agent. Mourinho was not rash. He considered carefully until the right club emerged. Inter Milan, which in 2008 was still led by Massimo Moratti, was willing to support all Mourinho's programs and innovations. That guarantee was enough to convince Mourinho. Finally, Italy became the next destination of a Jose Mourinho. Upon arrival in Milan, Mourinho immediately conducted his first interview session. In that moment, he touched on several things, including what he had done at Chelsea, his relationship with Chelsea players, and his confidence in starting a new season with Inter Milan.
Anybody from outside to establish the challenge for myself. I established the challenge for myself. And the challenge for me is simple. I always want to do it well, and I always want to win.
At Inter, Mourinho inherited Roberto Mancini's squad. Without adding or subtracting anything, Inter were already strong. Mourinho came into Inter having just won 2 consecutive Scudettos. So, what else is expected from Jose Mourinho? Apparently, Moratti wants more than that. The president wants Mourinho to help Inter dominate Europe. In the deal, Mourinho's task in the 2008/09 season is to maintain Inter's dominance in Italian football. Moratti wants his team to win a 3rd consecutive title, but on the other hand, Mourinho must not neglect his obligation to prepare the team to compete in the Champions League. To realize both, Mourinho also intends to improve the quality of the team to a better level. Of course, with financial support and trust from club officials. One night in Milan, Mourinho was willing to take additional working hours to plan. Together with his coaching team, Mourinho chose which players would be suitable for the team. Of course, it's not just about the match of game patterns that are sought after. The players brought in must have very good quality in order to help the team compete in European competition. Unfortunately, in the 2008/09 Champions League season, Inter were knocked out by Manchester United in the round of 16. After the away game at Old Trafford, Jose Mourinho immediately held a one-on-one meeting with Moratti. The now 60-year-old coach demanded a promise. However, when Mourinho came to collect the promise, Moratti did not say much. He just smiled slightly and left immediately. Moratti immediately did what Mou asked. He wanted to prove that his promise was not a blank check. As a result, the summer of 2009 was a busy season for Inter Milan's sporting director. Mourinho wanted a defender to strengthen the back line. The first choice was obviously Ricardo Carvalho, a player who had already memorized Mourinho's playing style. But the scouting team offered Lucio, an agile, fast and strong defender. Then Mourinho asked for a player who could control the midfield. Within days, Wesley Sneijder and Thiago Motta arrived at the San Siro. As for attacking power, Mourinho wants players who are fast, clinical, and able to duel with opposing defenders. Like a genie granting all Mourinho's requests, Moratti agreed and brought in Samuel Eto'o from Barcelona and Diego Milito from Genoa. Getting what he wanted, Mourinho also guaranteed that the club's money would not be wasted. At that time, Inter Milan hadn't won the European Cup or Champions League for nearly 50 years. Even during the 1990s, when almost all the top players in the world played for Inter, they couldn't win either. Mourinho broke down that psychological wall. He injected his European DNA into the Inter squad. His squad went into the Champions League on a treble quest after securing the Serie A and Coppa Italia trophies in 2009/10. Qualifying from the group stage as runners-up to Barcelona, Mourinho's Inter were not favorites. Despite being underestimated, Inter made it all the way to the final. La Beneamata traveled to the Santiago Bernabeu to challenge Bayern Munich in the final. Relying on the trident of Pandev, Samuel Eto'o, and Diego Milito, Inter showed who rules in Europe. Unmitigated, Mourinho's men ground Louis van Gaal's men 2-0. History was made. The Nerazzurri became the first Italian team to achieve a treble winner. Surprisingly, there was something else about Mourinho's face. As the staff and players poured out onto the pitch, Mourinho only smiled slightly as he looked up at the stands filled with Inter ultras. His eyes were glazed over, but there seemed to be something else in his gaze. There is something that Jose Mourinho has been hiding all this time. Apparently, since the beginning of the 2009-10 season, Mourinho has had an affair with Real Madrid. In his interview with Sky Sport, Mourinho revealed everything. When asked how it felt to win the treble with Inter, Mourinho actually felt sad.
I'm so happy, I'm so proud. At the same time, I'm so sad because almost for sure it's my last game with Inter. And Inter is my house. The same way Chelsea is my house, Inter is my house.
The statement was surprising, but not for Massimo Moratti. The Italian had known since the start of the season that Mourinho would leave. Yes, win or lose, champion or not, Mourinho will still step out of the San Siro. At Moratti's residence, Mourinho said it all. He had bagged an attractive offer from Real Madrid. Passing up the opportunity to coach Real Madrid would be foolish, and Mourinho would not do it. However, because Moratti still owed the Champions League, Mo delayed signing the contract until the end of the season. The final being played at the Santiago Bernabeu was like a deliberate coincidence for Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid. After the final match, a pickup car from Real Madrid was waiting outside the stadium. Mourinho ran away from the Inter players who were celebrating the title. Mourinho realized he didn't want to spoil the atmosphere, because after the long whistle, he was no longer part of Inter Milan. On 31st May 2010, Jose Mourinho was officially introduced as the new Real Madrid coach. He signed a 4-year contract with El Real. As usual, in his first interview, Mourinho was always good for words. He praised his new club as the best club and has many uniqueness. However, he also never forgets to boast. A little opportunistic indeed, but that's his trademark. Mourinho has built an image as the most narcissistic football coach in the world. He always loved himself more than anyone else. But for some reason, if the arrogant Mourinho will be more easily accepted, like that's okay. Sweet words, of course, have consequences. Fans' expectations are even higher. His presence is expected to improve the team's performance in Europe. After all, he had just won the Champions League with Inter Milan. With Real Madrid having a Galacticos squad, winning the Champions League should be easier for Mourinho. As a man who likes challenges, of course, high expectations from fans are a natural thing for him. The higher the expectations, the more Mourinho will be challenged to fulfill them. However, in the process, he cannot be alone. Mou hopes that all Madrid players continue to have the same vision and mission to realize the ambitions of the club and fans. Unfortunately, Jose Mourinho's first season with Real Madrid was never going to be easy. The obstacles that must be faced are greater than expected. Mourinho was required to overthrow the dominance of Barcelona, which at that time was handled by a talented young coach, Pep Guardiola. Real Madrid hopes Mourinho can be the antithesis of the football promoted by Guardiola in Spain. This hope is not without good reason. Real Madrid officials have seen evidence of Mourinho's expertise in reducing Barcelona's superiority in Europe. Mourinho did it when he was still in charge of Inter Milan in the Champions League semi-finals of the 2009-10 season. But Madrid forgot that Pep Guardiola is a football enthusiast. In the aftermath of that defeat, Pep has learned a lot. He's created the best concoction that Jose Mourinho's cheap strategy can't match. And sure enough, 2 meetings in the 2010-11 season, Mourinho never won from Barca. The first meeting was the most painful. Jose Mourinho was completely beaten by Guardiola. How could he not? Instead of overthrowing Barca's dominance, Madrid was torn apart.
Will it define? It will!
Barca showered 5 goals that Madrid did not even reply to. It was Mou's first defeat in the 2010-11 season. Everything has been tried and everything has failed. Jose Mourinho's side had scored over 100 goals, lost just 4 games, and accumulated 92 points from 38 matches. But they still finished second because Barca finished the season better than Madrid. La Blaugrana only lost twice and collected 96 points. That was enough to finish first and claim the La Liga title for the 2010-11 season. While in the Champions League, his fate was not much different. Jose Mourinho's squad can only get wisdom. Los Blancos could only reach the semi-finals despite being unbeaten in previous matches. So who beat Mourinho in the UCL semi-finals? AC Milan, Juventus, or Manchester United again? Of course not. The antagonist in this moment is none other than Pep Guardiola. Again and again, Mourinho was made helpless when facing Barcelona's signature tiki-taka. Unfortunately, the man from Portugal had to see Barca win the Champions League trophy that previously belonged to him. Seeing Barca marry the La Liga and Champions League titles is the most bitter pill Mourinho has ever swallowed. Being only second in the league and failing to make it to the Champions League final is certainly not the result anyone wants. Moreover, Jose Mourinho at that time inherited a second-volume Galacticos squad that had been assembled, compiled, and paid handsomely by the club. Entering the second season, Mourinho's efforts paid off. The squad, worth hundreds of millions of euros, finally reaped the Spanish League trophy. No kidding, Mourinho helped Los Merengues reach 100 points from 38 matches to straddle Barcelona. Unfortunately, this success was the beginning of problems. Mourinho began to clash with his players in the third season. The most difficult to forget is the explosion of conflict between Mourinho and the living legend of Real Madrid, Iker Casillas. The conflict began at the start of the 2012-13 season. Casillas was benched and replaced by either Adan or Diego Lopez. Mourinho initially argued that this was just a technical problem. However, after several repetitions, it was revealed that Mou was not happy with the goalkeeper's attitude. Mourinho finally admitted that he was annoyed with Casillas. After, according to him, club information was always leaked due to Casillas having a journalist partner. In addition, Mou also did not like Casillas' behavior, which was too close to Barcelona players, even though it is a natural thing, given that they are all Spanish players. Not only that, Mourinho also boldly said that backup goalkeeper Diego Lopez was much better than Casillas. This sentence was revealed when asked why he crossed out Casillas and included Diego's name ahead of an important match against Galatasaray in the Champions League quarter-finals.
Para mí, Diego López me gusta más como portero que Iker Casillas. Es simple. No tengo ningún problema personal. No es ninguna decisión con el objetivo de perjudicar a alguien. Me gusta más.
Knowing this, several Madrid players chose to defend Casillas. The conflict was widespread. Mourinho was accused of dividing the dressing room. Everyone was invited to make a fuss with Mourinho. Whoever the player and whatever the status, Mou did not hesitate to throw scathing criticism. Even dead reserve players like Pedro Leon were hit. His name may not be well known to the public, but the story of Pedro and Mourinho will never be forgotten. Signed from Getafe in 2010, Pedro was considered never able to bring out his best potential with Madrid. The relationship between the two even got worse after Pedro was not included in the squad that competed in the Champions League. When asked the reason, Mourinho actually answered oddly by saying that he would not play Pedro even if his team's plane crashed and only Pedro survived. Mourinho boldly told Pedro to watch the match on television. This answer certainly makes the player's heart feel sliced. Cristiano Ronaldo, who has been believed to be in the pro-Jose Mourinho camp, was not spared from the dispute with the entrenador. Ronaldo always does his best, but Mou continues to criticize him. The coach felt Ronaldo was lazy when helping the defense. This moment was even immortalized by Luka Modric in his autobiographical book entitled My Game. In the book, Modric wrote that the incident occurred in the match against Valencia in early 2013. On the sidelines, Ronaldo and Mourinho were involved in an argument. Mourinho's anger then continued into the dressing room, and this made CR7 fed up. The relationship between the two was even more complicated. The two Portuguese citizens rarely communicate despite working together for 3 years in Madrid. Even if not mediated by Jorge Mendes, communication between CR7 and Mourinho would not go well. Seeing the situation getting worse, Sergio Ramos finally took action. The Spanish defender, who could not stand Mourinho's mouth, finally held a secret meeting with Florentino Perez. Ramos directly asked the president to sack Mourinho as soon as possible. Of the many players who fell out with Jose Mourinho, it was perhaps Ricardo Kaká who suffered the most under the white-haired manager. How could he not? His glorious career and the gold ink that had been written on his name in Italy simply disappeared at Real Madrid. Kaká actually had everything to conquer the world with Real Madrid. He even won the title of Best Player in 2007, beating Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi before he anchored to Spain. Unfortunately, Kaká's journey with El Real did not go smoothly. He reached a dead end to find his best performance. Some football observers also analyzed what made Kaká's career experience such a sharp decline. Two main problems were found. One was injury, and the second was the presence of Jose Mourinho. He completely changed everything about Kaká's career. The Portuguese coach did not give him a second chance. Outside of Kaká's fitness being compromised due to recurring injuries, Mourinho should have been the one to save his career. However, Mourinho behaved exactly the opposite. He never gave Kaká confidence even though the player had trained hard. That's when Kaká realized that Mourinho had a big influence on the destruction of his career. When Kaká begged for Mourinho's generosity, the coach trusted a young midfielder named Mesut Ozil. Mourinho favors Ozil because he has a more creative playing style. Ozil's presence is very helpful for supplying mature passes to players on the front lines. Kaká did win several trophies with Madrid, but Mourinho continues to try to distance himself from football. Identity crisis and self-confidence are the consequences that Kaká must bear alone. Mourinho really doesn't want to know that. He was only focused on himself. During his 3 seasons under Mourinho, Kaká only made 87 appearances. Most of them started from the bench. Instead of finding a way out, the sinless Mourinho let Kaká leave in the summer of 2013. The culmination of Mourinho's childish attitude of always looking for trouble was an insinuation from Florentino Perez. The president felt he had more responsibility because he was the one who brought Mourinho to Madrid. In the midst of El Real's deteriorating performance in the 2012-13 season, Perez and Mourinho's relationship began to be disharmonious. Perez, who at that time monitored from afar, was more in favor of his players. Moreover, Sergio Ramos's report seemed to strengthen his assumption that Mourinho was the culprit of the destruction of the Real Madrid dressing room. The president considered that Jose Mourinho's actions had gone too far. In a charity event attended by several Madrid players, including Ronaldo and Pepe, Perez satirized Mourinho. According to him, one of Real Madrid's sporting principles is to never give up, no matter how difficult the challenge. One should never give up, whether in sport or life. These values are in stark contrast to Mourinho's actions. He called Mourinho a coward, an idiot, and a bit abnormal for creating problems in the dressing room just to avoid his responsibilities as coach. He tried to renege on the agreement with Perez. All that just to avoid management pressure because he never won the Champions League for Real Madrid. The hatred towards Jose Mourinho's behavior at Real Madrid has created a bigger wave in the fans' circle. Most of the fans no longer believe the words that come out of Mourinho's mouth. In fact, at every home game, the fans do not hesitate to whistle and make fun of his name. After the annoying years, Jose Mourinho became the most unappreciated coach by opposing players. This was revealed directly by former Barcelona player Dani Alves. According to him, Mourinho is a controversial manager who uses any means to win. Alves felt that Mourinho only damaged the reputation and self-esteem of Los Merengues and La Liga. The former Chelsea coach actually made El Real a dirty and validation-hungry team, because in his era, Madrid transformed into a team that was jealous and could not accept defeat. No wonder bad things are the easiest to remember from Jose Mourinho's work in Spain. But on the other hand, we cannot deny that the former AS Roma coach has also left many positive things before finally leaving at the end of the 2012-13 season. From the player sector, for example, the trio of Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro may never have been created if Mourinho had not brought in Luka Modric from Tottenham in 2012. Madrid fans may never have seen Mesut Ozil's passes that pampered Karim Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo up front if Mourinho hadn't spotted his talent. Who would bring in a young midfielder from a Bundesliga club if not Jose Mourinho? Not only that, Mourinho also presented the Copa del Rey trophy for the 2010-11 season. The competition is one of the most difficult to win by Madrid in the last 20 years. Unfortunately, the achievement was closed because the public only remembers his time at Real Madrid as a cursed era